Hello guys, today I brought you this new generation CX-5 because a lot of you guys asked like, are these better? I mean, engine wise, are these better, more reliable? What are the changes on this one? How are they better if they are? So this one is a 68 plate, basically a 2018 model. It has still the 2.2 Skyactiv diesel, but with the AdBlue technology included. So it has AdBlue now. The car has around 100 and something thousand miles on the clock, and the owner of this car brought it to us with a reason that we do the jobs with a preventative maintenance. So we're going to check the exhaust camshaft and replace the injector washers at the same time to prevent future oil pressure problems. Also, we're going to do the carbon cleaning so the engine can breathe. We're going to have a look how bad the carbon buildup will be, because these ones had a slightly modified intake manifold and other bits. So now I'm going to open the bonnet and show you what are the differences and what are the similarities and what are the improvements compared to the previous generation of the 2.2 diesels. So as I said, let's have a look at the engine bay. What are the differences, or what has changed, what are the improvements? So what we can see straight away, we have a metal charge pipe instead of the plastic one, which is an improvement. I would say we have couple more sensors and couple less sensors. So for example, here is one sensor missing from the common rail, which not usually, but the previous generation had it. Also extra sensors. There is one extra temperature sensor going to the pipe which connects the EGR cooler to the EGR valve. That is extra. We have one extra solenoid up here which controls the vacuum. Also, the connectors of the injectors are different. This one have different connector, as you can see, and it is a 6-pin now instead of the 2-pin connectors used on a previous generation. The DPF is hidden behind that metal plate. It's nothing extra, it's just hidden. Here is also another sensor which you can see. It's not new, it is the turbo pressure sensor. Previously it was on the turbo, still it's on the turbo, but the connector is brought up here. Previously it was down there around the turbo. This is the exhaust pressure sensor, but this is already the upgraded one. Also, couple coolant lines are used differently to the throttle body, and also further below down there, but you can't see that right now. So as I said, this car is going to have the intake manifold removed and check the camshaft for wear. There will be a trick or like an interesting bit. I'll show you that once the once the valve cover has been removed. But as I said, also the intake manifold will be removed to get the car free from carbon so the engine can breathe again. So basically that's going to be done. Also a big or a major service, and one rear coil spring is broken. That's going to be replaced, but on both sides. So the owner wanted both of the springs replaced. We're not going to record that. Also, I need to tell, there is a bulletin for a PM sensor which is behind the DPF. That is an extra. I believe that is a new sensor. And as I said, it's behind the DPF or after the DPF, and that can go bad. It is a matter of time when it's go bad. So it will go bad, unfortunately, and the cost of it, just the sensor alone, is quite hefty. I think it's around 700 pounds if I'm correct. So without further ado, we're going to remove the valve cover, the intake manifold, and you will see the key differences between this generation 2.2 Skyactiv and the previous generation Skyactiv, and you will see also as well if it is any more reliable or not. So the intake manifold is removed, and now let's have a look at the carbon buildup. The engine has around 105,000 miles on the clock, and the carbon buildup is definitely there, but as you can see, it is not as much as on the previous generation engines. Usually at this mileage, the previous generation engines tend to have a lot more carbon buildup. Also, I have to say or admit that it heavily also depends how the car is used or where it's used, but mostly we see at around 100k on the clock, the previous gen engines already have quite a lot of carbon buildup, and this is, I'm not saying is not there, but it is not that bad at all. And here are the other bits. So the EGR valves, EGR cooler, intake shutter valve, and the intake manifold. And if you have a look, a difference here in the intake manifold is this pipe, that triangle shaped pipe. So the bottom of it is a triangle shape and the pipe goes inside the intake manifold, and basically that is letting the EGR or exhaust gases back again flowing to the intake manifold, and that is at an angle. Previously it was perpendicular to the intake manifold, like this side of the intake manifold, and I think it could coat a lot more carbon. As you can see, that hole is still, I'm not saying it's empty, but at least air can flow through it and it does not trigger a fault code. I'm not saying it is good or bad, these are just the fact. I think this one has a better flow of air, and that's why I think less carbon will stick on it. These bits, the EGR valves, they will be sooty only after, let's say, a couple startups, so don't worry about them. I mean, obviously we are going to clean them, but we are not too worried about them. The intake shutter valve is one of those which can get sooty, that needs cleaning definitely. Obviously these ones too, but that is like crucial for it to be cleaned. The EGR cooler as well, because if it is clogged, air is not passing it through it, and also the intake manifold, that has to be cleaned as well, precisely. Also guys, there is a one generation or a model where they have a different intake manifold. So there is an old style, there is this style, and there is a one in between. So basically that engine does not have the AdBlue system, but the intake manifold, where that EGR pipe, the triangle shaped EGR pipe, goes to the intake manifold, that goes into goes in at angle as well, just on this one. However, it does not have the same coolant hoses pipes coming out from it, if I'm correct. So that is another difference. So there are three types of intake manifolds, if I'm correct. The valve cover is removed and the walnut blasting is done. So let's have a look at the results. It is very clean, but a more interesting thing is up here, the camshaft. As you can guys see, the exhaust camshaft is no more with the variable valve lift or valve opening. They not skipped, but they left it behind the thicker lobe on the camshaft. So this one it cannot wear. This engine is with the AdBlue. So remember, I believe they made it from 2018 in the CX5 with the AdBlue, and that one, or that does not have the exhaust camshaft which can wear. However, the AdBlue adds another issues to the solution. Yeah, that's not my favorite thing. Other than that, injector washers were not blowing out, no carbon buildup around the injector hose. So this one's going to get cleaned from the top, I mean, and then assembled back together with new valve cover gasket, new injector washers. Also, I can say it had fairly lot oil changes. It looks brownish, not black, which is a lot better than black, and also it's not yellow or goldish, which is a little bit not saying not too good. It is still good, it is looking okay. It definitely had fair share of oil changes. So now just the assembly getting done, the major service and the rear springs, and I will show you when the car will be running again. Someone today asked me which is that sensor, you know, the expensive one, which is I believe 700 pounds. So the sensor is one of these two sensors, which is a PM, particulate matter sensor, and it triggers, I believe, the P246C fault code. So if someone wants to know, this is the one causing the trouble and it needs replacement, and 700 pounds per sensor, but only one needs replacement, if I'm correct. The engine is running, the car is put back together. It wasn't a big deal at all. As you could see guys, this one does not have that camshaft which can wear. It will never wear. Also the previous generation, if you have one from the batch which won't wear, it will never wear. Unfortunately, if you have a one from the bad batch, it will wear no matter what, and you cannot prevent it. This car came for a preventative maintenance. Basically he wanted to avoid any issues, which he will, and the car is 68 plate, so 2018 model, 7 years old, and 93,000 miles on the clock. During that period you could see how much of a carbon buildup has accumulated around the intake or inside the intake ports. It wasn't any dangerous or any like too much. We've seen a lot worse with even like less mileage, but also with the higher mileage. So these ones, I would say from 2018 and up, they are better, they're improved. However, as I mentioned in the earlier clips, unfortunately that sensor, the PM sensor, the particulate matter sensor will go bad. I can't really prevent it. That is, I would say, a manufacturer defect, or it get water ingress and that is causing it to go bad. But yeah, these ones are, I would say, more reliable in those terms, if you will. So yeah, thank you very much guys for watching. See you soon in the very next video. Take care and bye bye.